The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for Short Time.
Hey, it's Warren Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine. The one and only Chael Sonnen. And you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now up on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, we are talking with the president of United World Wrestling, Mr. Nenad Lalovic, as we are wrapping up the European Championships here in Novi Sad, Serbia. First of all, Mr. Lalovic, how did you think your home country has done with hosting these European Championships?
I'm quite satisfied, and I think that after this championship, we have new standards for the Continental Championships. I believe that they fulfilled all our conditions when it comes about accommodation for athletes, transportation, presentation of the sport, the hall itself, and so on.
Saturday night, we got to see Serbia get its first ever European champion. What was it like for you as a Serbian to see Christian Fries win a gold medal here at the Europeans?
It's not the first ever. The last gold medal was in '89 on the European Championship. And the boy who won it at that time, his name was Nenad Lalovic. And since then, we never had a gold. We had a lot of medals, but never a gold really on European Championship. And what is interesting, that is not the one that we expected to win. It's another one, another boy who is just practically who will stop his wrestling career now.
So as we get into the discussion about wrestling, first, you've been in this role for going on 4 years now. Outside of wrestling, what is your business career? What is your day-to-day job, so to speak?
Before becoming a president, I was very active in construction and the car imports, and also some cosmetic production here in Serbia. But I stopped a long time. Then I immediately stopped with the construction. And I'm now already out of the car import business, so I have just this cosmetic production, which is run now by my son. So I'm fully committed to work for the United World Wrestling and the sport itself.
How life-changing was the moment where you were thrust into the leadership role here with United World Wrestling?
It was a surprise for me first, because I never had this ambition before, but it just happened during one session that all my colleagues wanted me to be the leader for that period of, let's say, of reconducting eventually the sport on the Olympic program, and we succeeded. So I'm still here.
When we look at all the things that are moving within wrestling, there's still a lot of things that need to be done, even though United World Wrestling has come a long way. What do you think is the most pressing issue right now for United World Wrestling to tackle?
In this moment, we have fixed some problems we had in the past, but today our biggest problem is, I believe, the coaches, the number and quality of coaches. The coaches are leaving the sport, and there is nobody. We don't have definitely not enough coaches in this sport, and this is the main problem. The second problem I would identify like our state of mind, being a very old sport with a great tradition. That doesn't mean that we don't have to be updated daily, because the competition with other sports is terrible. And for our athletes and our sport not being on the Olympic program, it would be a catastrophe. So we are completely focused on updating the sport. We are now speaking and testing some new rules for Greco-Roman wrestling, which has to become more attractive and more understandable to the spectatorship. Our rules are often too complicated, and we are working in that direction.
You talk about the rules. Do you think that sometimes the rule changes are too frequent for the wrestling fan who's been watching for decades to try to understand?
They definitely are. They were. Now what we are doing, we announced the rule changes for 2018. It's not really rule changing. It's more adjustments. Let's say for Greco-Roman. There will be no changes for freestyle, for women's wrestling, but only in Greco-Roman, and also maybe the categories, because we will have most probably the weigh-in the future in a different moment before the matches. Not the previous day, but maybe the same morning before the matches. And all this is having in mind the health of our athletes. We believe that they are losing too much weight, and they have the possibility to gain the big part of this lost weight back during the night and so on. And we don't really think that this is very healthy. This way, the athletes will be less stressed. They have to compete all the time with an almost natural weight, let's say, and we can also adjust the weight categories consequently. But we are now testing all this, and we will have a decision by the end of August only.
So you're saying we're going to see, you said after Paris?
Yes. The rules. Also, we want to have the competition in 2 days per weight category, because we think that having 5-6 matches in 1 day, we lose the quality for the finals. And we don't have enough time to announce the final matches, the medal matches to the media.
When we look at the weight classes, how are they going to be dispersed? Is that something you're going to work with the International Network of Wrestling Researchers, or is there a scientific commission that's going to break out where the wrestlers should be? And
of course, we are discussing with the scientific commission. We are discussing with the medical commission. Then probably we will discuss also with the coach commission soon. And I think that we will find a adequate solution for all that.
With the weight classes, what are the odds of trying to get more weights back into the Olympic Games? Where is that fight at right now?
With this situation we have today, when the IOC has at least 10,500 athletes on the Games, it is not realistic to think in this moment about having more weight categories on the Games. We have added more categories on our championships, so we will have from 2018 10 weight categories on Continental and Europe and the World Championship. But in this moment, we are limited to 6 per style. So I don't expect that we can have more categories in let's say, close future, maybe later. Because I believe that the number of athletes participating on the Games should be reduced for at least 20%.
When we move past 2020, wrestling is still on the program. What's being done to ensure that wrestling stays on the program beyond 2020?
I have to tell you that we are not sure for 2020 only. With the new Olympic Charter, we were not elected. We were elected in 2013 in Argentina for 16 for 20 and eventually 24. But the charter changed in December 2014. So wrestling is now one of the 28 sports of the Olympic program and is not in a worse position than any other sport. But the IOC will reevaluate every sport after Tokyo. So every sport runs the same, has the same threat. So the only solution for every sport, not only wrestling, is to update the sport, I would say, daily.
What do you think has been the biggest positive that United World Wrestling has been able to do to further put the sport in front of more eyeballs, whether that's better locations, more web streams? What are things that you're proud of that you guys have accomplished so far?
First, proud that we have a completely different governance. We have a new constitution. We have a new code of ethics. We have more gender equality. We have new rules and more attractive wrestling. We have better officiating, especially in the last 6 months. We have worked a lot on development, on education. We have the assignment of referees now done only 1 minute before the matches or 2 minutes. And we have developed a software for that. So the chief of officiating has only the possibility to choose the referees among 5 given by the software. Education for referees, education for coaches, to develop the programs. This is what I'm proud now at this very moment. The fight for the games and this crisis is behind us. It's today a lesson for us, but we cannot live in the history. We have to look forward, how to develop, how to be stronger, how to be better, followed by the fans. I'm also proud about the streaming, about the production we have today, about design of about the whole presentation of the sport. And this upgrade don't have limits. And that's what we finally understood.
You mentioned the officiating. How much of that comes from the occurrence in Rio where there was alleged corruption? There was all sorts of questions surrounding it. Now you've got a system. How much do you think that was a black eye for United World Wrestling, and how do you feel like the organization has done to change that?
I compared all that we compared all these situations with Beijing cases, with London cases, and with the few cases we had in Rio. I must say that the conclusion by the board and all of us that we have much, much less of that. We had 2 and 3 suspicious matches. We have, we have organized people, former wrestlers, former non-active referees, athletes, and they reviewed all the matches without knowing who is reviewing which match. And the governance didn't know. It was only done by the sport department. But for the 2-3 alleged matches, I would say out of 402 matches on the games, we had 2 or 3 suspicious matches, which is a very good percentage. I would say much better than we had in the past. And not in a single case, the decision of those people were unanimous. So, wrestling is a very fast sport. In a tenth of a second may happen a lot of things, and often the referee makes a mistake. But we couldn't prove really intentional mistakes. Otherwise, we would react severely. Because this is for that kind of things, for the doping and for discipline on the field of play, the tolerance is here.
Now, you had mentioned gender equity earlier. What is being done to make that closer? Because the men have 2 styles, the women have 1. And that was a promise made for the IOC about gender equity. What can be done to create a better gender balance from United World Wrestling?
We have today, you of course are speaking about athletes. I also believe that on the Olympic Games we should have a total gender balance. But it's difficult to have it sport by sport. It has to be done generally, globally. But let's say that some sports are more suitable for men and the others are for women. For example, Greco-Roman wrestling is physiologically very complicated to be practiced by women. I have to tell you that in early 80s, French Federation started with Greco-Roman for women. Then continued the Scandinavian countries. They were more active in that, and then suddenly the medical commission at that time advised that Greco-Roman is not for women. And then they continued with freestyle. Freestyle was the first time of the games in Athens, as I remember. And since mid-80s, it took 20 years that we have women wrestling on games. Today, it is still difficult to imagine to have Greco-Roman on the games for women, but maybe some other styles like beach wrestling for women could fix the gender equality problem.
The United States and their high school federation just approved an optional two-piece uniform solution. What are you interested in seeing? Are you interested in seeing how that works in the U.S. and whether or not United World Wrestling will move to a potential two-piece type of uniform versus the singlet?
I will tell you immediately, I'm delighted by that. I'm delighted by that because our athletic commission refused that in 2015 when we proposed. And also we proposed a specific singlets for freestyle and women, and different one for Greco-Roman. At that time, the presentations in mid-January 2015 was made by Adidas, the German company. So before that, I visited Adidas few times. They came to us and they proposed that. The whole board adopted it, but we cannot adopt it without the will of the athletes. So at that time, we asked our athlete commission, and they disagreed with that. Today, we have a test pool for that. And that's why I'm delighted, because I think that these two pieces, singlets, let's say it's not a singlet anymore, it's a two-piece uniform, is more suitable for the sport for many reasons.
What are some things that are new initiatives that United World Wrestling is looking to do that haven't been talked about a whole lot yet? Is there any plans to expand some of these programs? I mean, where are we looking to grow the sport?
Absolutely. We want to grow the sport with upgraded communication, to upgrade our communication system, mediatic approach to the sport. We have improved a lot contracts with the TVs and the digital, distributors, and that makes us, confident that, of course, development, coaches, referees, education of referees, discover the new young referees in every country. All this, we have now referee commissions, sub-commissions on continents. The first one was born a few days ago by Europe, but I'm leaving now to the airport because I fly to India, and I will also propose them to have to form a referee subcommission only for Asia, conducted by Asians, and all this in order to have better education and younger and more referees.
So as we wrap up here, a couple questions involving seating and separation. Where would you like that to go? Do you see the benefits? What are the benefits to United World Wrestling? The fans can see them, but what do you see as the president that said this makes sense for seating and separation?
Absolutely. We decided that we will have a four head of series at least for the World Championships, but then we are heading to a ranking system for sure, and that will give much more value to our tournaments out of official championships. We are sure that they will be more visited by the athletes. This is something that we are developing now, but I cannot tell you the final outcome. This is what we intend to do.
And also, the World Championships are being moved into October starting in 2018. What do you see the benefits of moving the World Championships later in the calendar?
The reason is that we, mediatically, it will be much more followed than it is end of August or beginning of September, because you have many other World Championships like basketball, judo. There is a lot of sport at those dates. And in October, we have much more, we'll have much more visibility. And anyway, we want to separate to have the Continental Championships 6 months before. So practically there will be, in a year, 2 cycles of preparation of the athletes.
Also, the locations have been, it seems to be you're going to Paris has made a strong bid. We will be there in April, Budapest the following year. Why is it important to have the World Championships of all age groups in major cities with good infrastructure?
That's what we want. We want better conditions for our athletes. It is not limited to big cities, of course. Sometimes a smaller city can even organize in an easier way the championship. But this is very good for the promotion of the sport, having it in SC, the reconstructed hall, for sure. And mediatically, we believe that Paris is a good choice for us. The same for Budapest. Budapest is a country of wrestling, and it's in Central Europe. We believe that we should have soon a World Championship. We had in 2015 in the United States, and probably the next one, 2019, might be in Asia. As we have one candidate from Asia and one candidate from Europe. And we have also to distribute on different continents. We cannot stay in one continent all the time.
Do you think we'll ever see a World Championships in Africa?
Why not? Why not in the future? Why not in South Africa? We have a new development center in Morocco. It is financed mostly by the Moroccan government. They have to see that they have for the athletes a 4-star hotel for wrestling training center.
The American sports fan, the American wrestling fan, we have a different wrestling style that sells out the NCAA championships. I'm sure you've seen and heard about how popular that event is. What is your message to the American wrestling fan who doesn't really necessarily, they try to understand freestyle and Greco, they just don't trust the system? What can you say to the Americans to say, hey, we've got a good product here, just give us another chance?
I don't think that they have that position, American fans. We saw American fans in Las Vegas recently. I had contacts with the fans during the World Cup in LA, and I really don't think that they don't have trust in United World Wrestling. That is definitely not the case. But of course, we should be and work closer with the U.S. wrestling. That's it. The problem is that on colleges, the college wrestling is very developed in the States. It has some modified rules, let's say, but that doesn't mean that those boys and girls cannot adapt to the wrestling that we practice. And how many Olympic champions you have from the United States, and how many world champions you will have this year? So I don't think that we are far from one from another.
Any final thoughts about where United World Wrestling is going, and what you need to still fix, what you're happy with, anything that you're going to take away from these European championships that you can build upon as we head towards the juniors in Finland, the seniors in Paris, and then the cadets in Athens?
What makes me confident for the future is that we fixed a lot of, let's say, problems we had. I've assisted to the European Championships in Novi Sad. I just left, and I'm very satisfied by officiating. There was not a single, let's say, a protest with reason. The atmosphere completely changed. Everybody understands that only protecting all the wrestlers, you protect your own. This is the approach that we should have for the future. Having that approach, that idea, we will go in a bright future.
You are listening to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast with my daddy, Jason Bryant.
And that was episode 330 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Currently sitting in Novi Sad, Serbia, about 4 p.m. on Sunday, May the 7th, about 2 hours from the time we'll kick off the final session of our awards, Greco-Roman, wrapping up with 71, 75, 80, and 85 kilos here at the European Championships, brought here by United World Wrestling to work on the broadcast. I'm working with John Cullen. You can go back and listen to the previous episode of Short Time, and we talked to the Scot about his career in broadcasting, how we've been working together here at the European Championship. So a couple things I want to address before I get into some of just the housekeeping things. The point that Mr. Lalovic made about the Serbian European champion, I went back and looked that up. Yes, there was a Serb who won the European Championships, but that was under the Yugoslavian flag. They were still part of Yugoslavia. So as a nation, I guess I needed to clarify to Mr. Lalovic that as a nation, that was Serbia's first Greco-Roman gold. So I wasn't going to interrupt him and correct him during the course of the interview as we got that set up. Secondly, a lot of these questions came from people in the private Matt Talk Online Facebook group. How do you get to be part of that? Well, you've got to join the Patreon team. You've got to join the team at Matt Talk Online, and various levels of giving. You can do so at matttalkonline.com/join the team. Input from Sally Roberts, Josh Broman, John Rubiner, Phil Merrill, Dylan Wanagale, Scott Paludik, and Chris Barnes. All those people had advanced knowledge of this interview, and they were able to provide questions or weave their questions into questions that I would ask for this interview. And I don't do that for every single guest on Short Time, but there are certain times where special guests come in. I'd say having the president of the International Federation would qualify as a special guest. So they had the opportunity, and they have the access to that by the Facebook group, which is a private group. You've got to be a patron of the network to do it, or you have been a previous guest, in that case with Dylan Wanagale and Sally, their previous guests, who also provide some insight. So if you want to be part of that, contributions vary from $1 a month to whatever you want to give. matttalkonline.com/join the team. It'll take you to a Patreon page. Certain levels of giving give you certain perks. Well, the Facebook group is at a certain level, the T-shirts at a certain level, the draft glasses that are a certain level, the hats, etc., the preview guides, the Fargo guide, all that stuff. So if you want to have an opportunity to get your questions in when these type of guests come in, that is one way you can do it. You can join the team. You can support the network here at Matt Talk Online, matttalkonline.com/join the team. So that is pretty much the situation here in Novi Sad. There are a couple things I didn't have a whole lot of time to get, because initially I thought he was going to be actually in the building, because he actually left on Saturday night to go back to Switzerland, to go home, turn around, and go to Delhi for the Asian Championships, New Delhi, the Asian Championships. So as I'm walking around at 12:30, I give him a call. I'm like, hey, can I meet you somewhere? He goes, I'm back in Switzerland. So had to make this one work as best I could. So that's the case, but we made it work. We got it done. Had to find a quiet room here in the Spence Sports Center. And I'll tell you what, folks, I haven't had a chance to really, I've said this on social media via my Twitter at Jason M. Bryant, if you're just checking in. Novi Sad, Serbia is one of the coolest places I've been. And it's not like it's like overwhelmingly like super awesome in terms of like, amenities and whatever. It's just a cool place. It's got that, it's got that Eastern European feel. The people are nice. It's very inexpensive over here. I mean, the value of the, comparatively speaking, you can eat and get a bottle of wine and a large meal and a bottle of wine, for example, for like less than $20 a person. I mean, usually you add wine, that's $20 right there. I think, we had the food here has been fantastic. You can actually drink the water, which I'm very averse to doing in foreign countries because I do not know. I haven't really drank out of the tap just because I've got bottled water here, and I just, that's what it is. And, most of the internet here in the facility has been lightning quick. Same with the lobby of the hotel. The rooms aren't so fast, but I have zero complaints about Novi Sad, the situation here with United World Wrestling. I'll be on the call for this. I will be back in Europe for the Junior European Championships in Dortmund at the end of June, early July. Then I will come back to the Junior World Championships in Tampere, Finland. I'll be on the call again with that. I'm not sure if John Cullen will be joining me or not. I will be at Paris for the World Championships doing the PA, and then back to Greece for the Cadet World Championships in late August, early September. So that is my international course of action. So if you were watching on Track Wrestling in the U.S. or you're watching on live stream outside of the country, that is my plan for the summer. I will also be throwing in the Junior Nationals in Fargo, a 20-year reunion. I will not be going to Beat the Streets next week. That 9-month-old at home kind of needs daddy to hang around. She'd be 10 months by the time most of you hear this. So, Ruby Rio, 10 months old. So that's crazy, crazy, crazy. I'm going to wrap it up from here because I've got a lot of things to do. I hit the bus at about 3 a.m. to drive back to Belgrade and then catch the 6:40 flight to Amsterdam, 4-hour layover. I'm going to try to get out and do something in Amsterdam for a bit. Unfortunately, my wife's cousin, Ben, who lives in Amsterdam, couldn't get the day off of work. So I'm like 20 minutes from my wife's cousin, Ben. And that's the last time I actually saw him was at the wedding reception they had in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I got to sit down and have a beer at the B-Dubs with Tommy Bloodround. So anyway, that has nothing to do with this trip. But heading back to Amsterdam, actually it does. The Grand Rapids thing doesn't. But going back to Minnesota, get to hang out for a little bit. My anniversary is on the day we fly back, so I got some plans to hang out with my wife and decompress a little bit from wrestling. But as always, I'm interested in your feedback. If you want to sign up for the wrestling newsletter, you can go to mattalkonline.com/news. If you want to contribute to this network, again, working on producing more content, and that is because you allow me that production time with your contributions. And I also forgot 2 trips that I forgot that I'm going to Oklahoma for the Hall of Fame Honors Weekend, and I forgot that to tell you I'll be in Lincoln announcing the World Team Trial. So busy spring and summer for me. So that's really all I got. This was a good opportunity to get some words about what was going on with Nenad Lalovic. Obviously, there were a lot more questions I wanted to ask, but in the time given, we got through that, and then we're making sure that we get things done here in Serbia with why I am here, and that is to broadcast. So I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time for short time.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.